I wanted to talk today for a few minutes with you about goal setting. And the reason I wanted to talk about goal setting is that right now, as people are getting underway with their studies leading up to the next exam, I see that a lot of students start thinking about and talking about and being aware of goal setting. And this goal setting can take a lot of different forms. It can be goal setting with respect to your time and your study schedule. It can be goal setting for how many assignments you want to get done. It could be goal setting for the kind of scores you want to do. It could be goal setting in a number of different areas, which is great. I love the idea of setting a goal, and I really want people to have that opportunity to do that goal setting and then to reach it. But when I hear about the goals that people set for themselves as relatively new bar takers, whether you're repeating the exam or you're a first-time taker, or maybe you're a distant bar taker, it's been years since you took an exam, the goal setting process has got a couple of elements that seem to be consistent. And when I hear people talking about setting their goals, I like to view it from a slightly different perspective. To me, it's actually a three-zone process. Now, here's what I mean by that. The zones of goal setting, I think, can be broken down into three distinct groups. And I think it's important to recognize where you are in those zones and the advantages and disadvantages of each. So what I want to do is lay out those three zones for you and then talk briefly about each one of them so that you can get a feeling for how to implement these. The first zone when it comes to goal setting is what we all call the comfort zone. I'm in my comfort zone, I'm staying in my comfort zone, I'm getting out of my comfort zone. But the first zone is the comfort zone. The second zone that we're going to talk about is the discomfort zone. I guess if you get out of your comfort zone, the place you're going is the discomfort zone. And we're going to talk about what the distinction is between that and the comfort zone. And then the third zone is what I call the delusional zone. The delusional zone. That's when you go way beyond your discomfort zone. Now, I know that there are some of you who are thinking, yeah, man, I'm going to go for that zone 3. I'm going to go totally out there to the delusional part. So hang in there with me for a minute. Let's go back to zone number 1 and look at it and see how this applies. A lot of people live, work, play, study, live their lives in the comfort zone. They are in that comfort zone. They like it. They stay there. If you're a TV fan on The Big Bang Theory, Sheldon's got the comfort zone. It's that seat on his couch, and he likes it there, and it's a good place to be. The comfort zone for most people, when we're talking about the bar exam, is this place where you're not really stretching yourself. You're not really challenging yourself. You're just doing what you've already done or what you've done in the past. Now, the way that this plays out for a bar taker is that because you're not stretching yourself, you come to the point of studying and you think to yourself, consciously or unconsciously, I'm just going to kind of stay in my comfort zone here. Well, what does that mean in effect? Well, for some of you, it means that you're probably going to just repeat your past errors. For example, if your comfort zone was using IRAC writing, because that's what you did in law school, or maybe you did it when you took the bar previously, and whether you passed or failed, you did that over and over. And so now you come to study this time and you say, well, I'll just do what I did before. I'll do what I did in law school, or I'll do what I did when I took the bar and failed, or when I took the bar many years ago and passed. And the problem is you're really repeating this past behavior. And in most cases, that past behavior is probably error-filled. Definitely when we come to IRAC writing, I would say it's completely error-filled. But even outside of that supercharged, highly emotional issue of issue spotting, I would say that when people are in their comfort zone, what they're mostly doing is repeating past errors. The things that didn't work in the past will continue to not work. But it's comfortable, I'm used to it, and I can live with it. And so, even though it's not the best way to do it, I'll do it. Here's another example of people that are in their comfort zone. I have students, and by student, I don't mean somebody that's 22 years old typically, but somebody that's taking the bar who says to me, I'm going to handwrite my exams. And when I ask them why, they say, well, it's just I'm more comfortable writing. And then I say, well, yeah, but the bar examiners aren't used to reading handwriting, and you can't get as many words on the page, and you can't modify and edit it, and it doesn't look as professional, and it doesn't look as disciplined and organized, and it's got a lower pass rate than typewritten work. So why wouldn't you typewrite or compute? And they say, well, because I'm comfortable handwriting. Not really a very compelling reason, is it? In other words, what happens is our comfort zone keeps us locked in to doing the past behavior, which might be good or bad, but in this particular case, I think is definitely bad. And so staying in the comfort zone, repeating your past mistakes is definitely something you don't want to do. Now, if you're coming into our course and you failed the bar exam previously somewhere else, and you want to keep doing what you did before because it's comfortable to you, well, you already know the result of that. Nothing's going to change for you. The bar exam gods are not going to look down kindly on you and say, you're in Jackson's course, we'll let you pass. Not going to happen. You got to do things differently. And so you got to be not in that comfort zone, at least in that regard. The other thing I notice about people in the comfort zone is that they rationalize. Oh, they rationalize a lot. They rationalize the behavior because they say things like, well, it's what I did when I took the bar exam X number of years ago, or it's the way I learned in law school, or, it's what I think everybody's doing, isn't it? I mean, my friends in the Barbary class are all doing this, so that should be what I do too, right? No. Don't rationalize that behavior. I mean, make your own conscious decisions about what you're doing. But what I find is that when people are rationalizing, they're really trying to stay in a comfort zone. They don't want to get outside the norm. They don't want to be different. They don't want to do something that feels a little odd or a little different. And so they rationalize why they won't do it. I made a big deal for a couple of years now that I think students should go to the bar exam dressed as if they're going to court. Now, the reality was that there was sort of this rationalization. Well, I want to be comfortable when I'm at the bar, or I need layers to stay warm, or whatever. Yeah, those are all great rationalizations, but they're not really a reason to do this. So you stay in your comfort zone. You do what you've always done. You wear your sweats and your flip-flops and you go in and take the exam. It takes some additional work to do something different. So when someone is rationalizing their behavior, typically I find that they're in their comfort zone and they're not very willing to get out of that comfort zone. And then the final quality that I find when someone is setting goals in their comfort zone is that it's sometimes symptomatic of being not all in. They're not really ready to make big changes yet. They're just kind of testing the water. They're kind of dipping their toes in just a little bit to see if it's okay. I'm going to kind of do what you're talking about, but, it feels a little uncomfortable to me. And so I'm not sure I really want to do that and go all in, and throw myself completely into that particular circumstance. When you go all in, boy, big things happen. But when you don't go all in, not much changes. You kind of dip your toe in, you go, it's a little warm, it's a little cold, I don't know. And so between the rationalization and the repeating of past errors, you end up not really changing much. And so you're not all in and not much changes. And that's the comfort zone. When the comfort zone becomes the dominant setting for your goal setting, I don't find much happens to people. And so the result of that is that people get locked in and they don't get the results they want. So how do I feel about staying in your comfort zone? I hate it. I'm going to push you out of it. So then the question is, where am I pushing you to? So let's look at zone 2 next. Now, if you assume there is such a thing as the comfort zone, and there are plenty of people that say you should never even talk about a thing called the comfort zone because we don't want one. But the alternative to that, the next alternative, is the discomfort zone. Now, I'm not saying boot camp. I'm not saying drill sergeant. I'm not saying make your life a living hell. I mean, the bar examiners do a good enough job of that. What I am saying is that when you're setting goals in the discomfort zone, what you want to be doing is setting challenging goals. Look, if nothing would change if you only studied 5 hours a week, then challenge yourself, move it up to 10 or 15 hours a week, make your studies more impactful than they were before. Put yourself in a little bit of discomfort because it's a challenge. Do something you haven't done before. I think it's challenging to add exercise to your life if you haven't done it before. I've been challenging myself over the past couple of years to see if I could increase the amount of exercise and activity that I get. And I've talked to many of you from time to time about this goofy thing on my wrist, which gives me my count, my step count, and other information. I keep challenging myself to move it up a little bit further. So when I started, I was at about 2,500, 3,000 steps a day. And then I moved it up and kept moving it up. And then I hit 10,000 steps a day, and I was feeling pretty good about that. And then there was this stupid article about mail carriers in Glasgow were walking 15,000 steps a day, and 15,000 steps a day is the new 10,000 steps a day. Are you kidding me? Okay, fine. I'm going to get a little worked up about the whole step thing. But the point is that by taking those extra steps, I'm challenging myself. I'm pushing myself into the discomfort zone. I'm getting myself to do more. Push yourself into the discomfort zone when it comes to your studies. Challenge yourself a little bit more to do a bit more than you were doing before. Now, along with that challenging, here's what you're going to discover. Being in the discomfort zone can be frustrating. It really can, because now you're not able to do things that you could do before. You know, I've had people, for example, when we talk about this idea of typing versus handwriting, who say, I'm not good at word processing, at typing on a laptop. Okay, I get that. It can be frustrating, but you'll get better at it by practicing it. I've had people for whom English is not a first language say, it's really frustrating to work and think in the English bubble that you tell me to use, you know, to talk and think and function entirely in English while I'm studying for the bar. It's frustrating. It puts them in a discomfort zone, but it changes the results. So you've got to be willing to put up with a little bit of frustration to move into that discomfort zone when you're challenging yourself. Now, having said that, it's also important in the discomfort zone that you avoid being overwhelmed. You know, there are people that take on too much, they try too much too quickly, and they're overwhelmed. It just is too much. And then the result of overwhelm for most people is we shut down. We just close up, we shut down, we give up. We don't want that at all. So there's a difference between the comfort zone and the discomfort zone. You'll know that you're getting too far outside the discomfort zone if you're overwhelmed. That's a good indication that you need to pull it back, do a little less than you were doing, set a little less goal. Let me give you one example. If you're starting out in your studies right now and you say, I'm going to study 40 hours a week for the next 4 months, well, I've got a newsflash for you. You aren't. It isn't going to happen. It just won't. And it's too much, and you'll be overwhelmed, and you'll come back at a certain point in time and you'll say, Jackson, I'm burned out. I just don't have any gas left in the tank. Why? You overdid it. You went too far into the discomfort zone. So avoid overwhelm. So how do you do that? Well, I think essentially you do it with incremental movement. You come up in little bits and pieces. Again, to use my analogy of using my step counter, I didn't go from 3,000 steps to 15,000 steps all at once. I went from 3,000 to 3,500, 3,500 to 4, and so on and so forth. And by doing that, you know, amazingly enough, I'm at 15,000 steps a day right now, but it doesn't feel like it because I've been moving incrementally all along. If you've been doing your studies and you raise them incrementally, if you shorten the amount of time it takes you to write an essay from when you start, perhaps it's 90 minutes and you move it down to 75 and then to 70 and then ultimately to 60. Or if you're in a 30-minute essay program and you get it from 45 down to 40, down to 35, you work incrementally by pushing yourself. You'll find that it's possible to do things you couldn't do at the beginning. And that's the beauty of that incremental approach to learning and the incremental approach to studying. Sometimes people in the discomfort zone view what they're doing as being like an on-off switch. It's only got two positions. It's up or it's down. It's on or it's off. I don't think it works that way. I think that the reality is that you really want to be more like a dimmer switch. You want to be turning it up or turning it down, and it comes in incremental groups. When you're working on those things, you want to work incrementally, and you set them aside and you say, you know what, I'll come back to this in a few days, repeat it, we'll add some more information, I'll do some practice questions, and then I'll set it aside and come back to it again and then do some more work on it again. By taking it incrementally, you give yourself the opportunity to really learn step by step instead of overwhelming yourself and doing too much all at once. And that's how you stay in the discomfort zone. You just keep yourself on the edge, just pushing yourself ever so much more. Well, the third zone, I think I have to talk about because bar takers, lawyers, high achievers are prone to this. And we call this zone the delusional setting zone. When you're delusional, essentially, the best way to say it is you're objectively ridiculous. I have had people come to me and say, well, I'm not really, I didn't go to law school, but I'm going to sit and challenge the exam. By the way, I'm calling from XYZ prison, and Yeah. No, you're not. You're not going to take the exam. Sorry. You may be the best jailhouse lawyer there is, but you're not going to sit for the bar exam. You are delusional. That's the extreme example. But a more commonplace example are the people who really set extremes in both the amount of time they're going to study and in their expectations. You know, when someone starts out their studying and they say, well, I think I'm going to put in 60 to 80 hours a week, and my goal is to get through the entire course seven full times. Really? It's not necessary. It's not helpful, and you're not going to do it. But the individual thinks, well, I'm setting this big goal, and by dreaming big, by setting a big goal, that's really good. No, it's not. It's delusional. It's actually harmful, and you don't want to do that. You want to step back and be objective about what you're doing. Does it make sense? By the same token, the person that comes and says, I'm going to take the California bar exam, I'm a foreign trained attorney and I don't speak English, or I speak it just barely, and I'm going to give myself maybe 100 hours of study time, and I'm going to pass on the first time. No, you're not. No, you're not. I did a video about a year or so ago, and I talked about the 5 groups of people that will never pass the bar exam. And oh, did I catch hell for that? How dare I say that there were people that would never pass? Well, I was in part talking about the folks that were delusional. There were some people that are delusional about what they can do. Not everyone will pass the bar, although most people are hardworking and intelligent and capable. And focused properly, I think almost anyone can pass it. But I think there are people who just believe that name it and claim it. If I say it's going to happen, it's going to happen, and then I can sit back and not do anything. That's delusional. And I don't find that to work. You've got to get involved, and you've got to be proactive in what you do. Ultimately, when someone sets too big a goal, too high a goal, too outrageous of a goal, what I find is that it leads to abandoned effort. They get discouraged. They set this goal that's so big, so huge, that it overwhelms them. It's beyond discomfort. It's just massively ridiculous. And then they go, man, that's not going to work. And they walk away from it. You know, if you felt at times like you're just going to give up on this, one of the things to do is to go back and ask, really, what were your goals? And were they objective and realistic? Were you setting enough time aside to do it? Were you trying to run 2 jobs, raise a family, and be, the local committee person in your city council while you're studying for the bar? Pretty tough to do. You know, I had the opportunity last year to work with a member of the Texas legislature who was sitting for the Texas bar. And this particular individual had failed the bar a couple times before he came to me. And of course, it was during the presidential elections. And this person, I guess, didn't have to run for office during this particular cycle. So that was the good news. But they had this amazing, huge, overloaded agenda. And so we had to have what we called a come to Jackson discussion, in which I said, you know, if you really want to pass the bar, we've got to have these cutouts for your time and energy. Your staff's got to do some things. You can't go out and be on the political, circuit while you're studying for the bar, or you're not going to pass. And this person came to me and said, but I've done all these great things. Yes. And I've been incredibly successful in my life. Yes, you have. I mean, amazingly successful. And I totally admire this individual. But we had to get him from these delusional expectations down to what was real. And while he was discomforted during his study, he was able to do it, and he passed. And it's a great story. I mean, but we had to get him out of the delusional zone. And so that's one of the things you want to do. The other reason that people use this delusional zone of goal setting is that in some deep sense, it's really an escape hatch. You know, I've had people who say to me, well, if I can't be perfect, then I'm just not going to do it at all. If I can't achieve a certain level of expertise the first time I write an essay, then I'll just give up. Or if I can't get so many questions correct initially, then I'm not going to do it. Well, what's that all about? It's really basically a form of saying, well, you know, I don't think I'm going to make it anyway, so I'll set a goal that's so ridiculously high that I know I can't do it. And that way, when the inevitable happens and I fail, I can say, well, if I had just been able to write a perfect essay, or if I had just been able to analyze all 200 of those questions, you know, and do X, Y, and Z in a way that we would never expect someone to do, well, then I would have been okay. You know, it's an escape hatch that lets us preserve our self-dignity and our self-respect. And I understand that, but it's a dangerous, dangerous trap to fall into. So don't talk yourself into these ridiculous goals that you have no opportunity and no ability to actually make happen. Because if you can do that, if you can stay outside of that delusional zone, then you're going to be okay. So what am I suggesting? Well, don't be in the comfort zone and don't be in the delusional zone. Be discomforted. I want you for the next few months to be in the discomfort zone. I want you to be pushing, challenging, and stretching yourself. Not impossibly, not ridiculously, but enough that you know you're growing. And if you can do that, then I think the results are going to be really, really good for you. And that's what I hope for you.